Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We're here for a special city council meeting tonight. We're going to hear about Vision Fund proposals. It is Monday, December 13th, 2021, and we'll start this meeting, like all the other meetings, with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom.
Here.
Weifenbach.
Here.
Roberts. Stroman. Jones.
Here.
Lehman. Solomon. Evans. Drew. Armstrong.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Now, if you wish, you can join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. And now for the adoption of the agenda. Would there be a motion from the council? So moved. Motion to adopt by Lehman. Second by Pat Jones. All in favor of adopting this agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, general public comment. We have a few general public comment speakers tonight. And all the speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and you can watch these traffic lights up here to see how you're doing on time. And then following the general public comment time, then we will start with the agenda. So first speaker request, Abigail Anchor. Did I say your name correctly? Okay, go to the podium over here and bend that microphone down if you need to, and speak right into it.
Hello, I'm Abigail Anchor of the Rapid City Racers swim team, and my team is here today to ask you about the building of the dome. The dome would benefit the whole city and both swim teams. With the dome would come more and bigger meets, and with bigger meets would come more money to the community. Swimming has given me a lot more confidence, and starting when I first started, I would not be here speaking to you today, and I just want to share that confidence with everybody else. So please consider building the dome in Rapid City. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Kimberley Wallace.
Hello. My name is Kimberley Wallace. I'm here on behalf of the staff of Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. As you know, the Vision Fund Committee did not recommend Habitat for Humanity for Vision Funds this year. We had requested $3 million towards our East Creek Village project. And we were informed by the committee that they were only recommending projects that met the following criteria: workforce housing, economic development, sustainability, and quality of life. With all due respect to the committee, I can't think of a project that embodies all 4 criteria more than East Creek Village. And I can't think of an organization that embodies all 4 criteria more than Black Hills Habitat for Humanity. Currently, there are only 34 homes listed under $300,000 in Pennington County. If workforce housing is such a priority, then why not fund the only home ownership opportunity presented to the committee? A project that is not only projected to produce over $1 million in property taxes over the next 10 years, but will actually fund affordable housing in perpetuity. As you can hear in my voice, we are very passionate about this project, and we so hope to have it get off the ground. You may be asking, why is $3 million so important to Habitat when we have rarely asked City Council for anything? And the reason is because if we look at our 31-year track record, we have to admit we are not the fastest builders around. We are pretty slow, actually. This $3 million will guarantee that we can address the affordable housing crisis now when it is needed most. It means that we can get going as soon as everything is in line, because we have a shovel-ready project. We are not presenting a project that we do not have plans and agendas for. The other point I want to bring up, again, is we rarely ask City Council for anything. And we promise that if you consider granting us these vision funds, it will mean the end of the petitions, the phone calls, the emails that Mr. Eggman and I have orchestrated over the last couple of months. We will be done, because in 3 years, when you meet for Vision Fund Committee again, our project will be in its final stages. Families will be moving into their homes, and we will not need to ask you anything, because we will be focusing on our next big project, and we will be focusing on how we're going to get that one off the ground. In terms of quality of life, I have a partner family here with me today who is just as scared to talk as I am. But she's here because she believes in our program, and she believes in what we do, and she wants to tell her story, and I really hope you listen. Finally, I just want to remind Councilwoman Drew, and I want to remind Councilwoman Armstrong what it was like when they stepped onto our Women Build site in 2019, and how grateful we were to have you there, and how you saw how we believe in what we do, and we believe in our families. And that home you were there to see, he is living in it happily, and making affordable payments. And Richie Nordstrom, I would like to remind you how many North Rapids Civic Associations we've had to sit through where me or Amber have defended Habitat nonstop. And we have talked about how much we care about our community and our neighborhood. And I know that this one is not on the north side, this one is on the south side. But I promise you, we're gonna bring the same enthusiasm and attention to the south side as we have brought to the north side. So I want you to think of those things today as you are considering your decisions. And I want to remind you that, again, you can be a part of history here by joining us and giving us these vision funds. Thank you.
Okay. Nicole McCann.
Hello. I am here to support Vision Funds for Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. I am a homeowner, and my experience with Habitat for Humanity has been life-changing. Habitat has set me up for long-term success in life. I started as a single parent struggling to make ends meet, and through the Habitat program, I have safe, sustainable housing, and it's affordable. And not only has Habitat given me a solid foundation, but it has also given me a sense of confidence to achieve not only the goal of home ownership, but to achieve other long-term goals. I am now a small business owner. And if it weren't for Habitat, I would not have had the confidence to pursue other long-term goals in my life. Please consider Vision Funds for Habitat. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Ingman.
Good evening, members of the council and friends, colleagues. First off, I just want to thank the Vision Committee. I know you guys did a lot of hard work, and it was difficult getting to this point. You know, in my 15 years serving with Black Hills Habitat, while we've served over 200 families, we've never received city subsidy, grants, loans, or vision funds. We pay our way, including building permit fees, utility hookups, and all the requisite city fees. For Vision 2021, we submitted our most ambitious project to date to facilitate the transformation of a target area that's in the comprehensive plan. The idea is 50 townhome condominiums that will be covenant restricted for affordability. We refer to this project as East Creek Village. It's at the corner of Creek Drive in East St. Charles. This infill development leverages existing infrastructure and will beautify a blighted part of our city. It'll be the first of its kind in Rapid City for affordable housing, a new benchmark for beautiful, dense, urban housing. We requested 3.1 on a $12 million project with a 3-to-1 match that we would fulfill. In addition to the $200,000 per year Habitat partner families pay, this project will generate over $1 million in property tax over the next 10 years. If we're to be selected to receive vision funds, which I know we're not recommended, but I want you to consider it, you will see exactly where every dollar that's given goes, because we are audited by Cato Thorstensen every single year. We're transparent with our funding, and we're committed to this solution as we have been for 31 years. So I hope in your deliberations you'll consider what Habitat's doing and what we've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Henry.
Here I go again. The homeless problem is now, not in the future.
I think you broke it, Chuck. Hold on one second. There you go.
Most of it is building in the future. What about the problem now? With the homelessness freezing to death, we already had one. That's what the mayor told me. And there's going to be more coming on. People are not supporting the homeless shelter. And it's too big for their building. They need a bigger building so they can increase their services. Same thing with the Hope Center. They need more help with their services to help people. Because the care center can't handle it. You're restrictive for the One Heart. It's just, when you got people sitting on the dining room floor, sleeping on a dining room floor, it's a problem. But churches are not involved. Some are. Some organizations are involved. Some aren't. Because I support a lot of these on here, but they're looking at the future, not the present. This is where the problem is. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jennifer Kruger.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Kruger. I'm a local physician, and I'm also a mother of 2 children on the swim team. And I'm here today in support of the dome covering of the Roosevelt Pool. I just want to bring attention to the crowd and the blue hats. These are families and swimmers who are part of both swim teams in town here to show their support for this dome. I just wanted to make a few comments. I know you guys have received a bunch of this in our Vision Fund, but the Aquatic Center here is in dire need of expansion. The facility is overused, and the programming has been limited because of lack of lane space. This affects our swimmers in terms of times that they can swim and how many swimmers they're swimming within a lane. For instance, some evenings, some of our kids are swimming with 10 or 12 people in their lane. Prior to COVID, we were having up to 20 kids per lane. This is a problem in that it's frustrating for new swimmers to learn how to swim when they're being kicked by other swimmers. The older swimmers do well because they can navigate the water, but at some point there's just too many kids. So the lane space is necessary not only for their space when they're swimming, but also to provide other times for them to swim during the week. This project is not limited, however, to the swim teams. This is an important project for all of the community. It's not only the swim teams that are in dire need of pool space, it's swim lessons, it's the water polo club, it's the paddlers, it's the scuba team, it's the water rescue teams. All of these groups are people that are using the facility and have limited space to do so because of lack of lane space. We have a great opportunity here. We have a 50-meter outdoor pool that's being utilized 3 months out of the year. This project allows us to use an existing facility, maximize the space, and utilize it to its full potential. By covering this, it will triple the lane space. For instance, right now we have a 25-meter indoor or lake yard. I always get that messed up. Yard pool. The outdoor pool can be turned into 20 lanes of 25 yards, which is a significant improvement. This will also allow us to hold larger meets. For instance, we currently cannot hold the state swim meet in short course because we don't have enough facility. You have to have a pool and you have to have a warm-up pool. By covering this, we will be able to host state swim meets, which will be a huge economic advantage to the city as well. So just here in support of that, we're happy to answer questions. I know you're going to have time to review things, so please feel free to let us know if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Aaron. And when you get up there, can you pronounce your last name for me?
Yudi.
Yudi.
Thank you. My name is Aaron. Yes, I'm also with the swim team. Jen Kruger, Dr. Kruger, and I were the ones who put this proposal together. And I want to thank you for giving me this 3 minutes. And I also want to take a little bit, first of all, to thank the Vision Committee for all the work they did. To misquote Julius Caesar, they came, they saw, they agreed. They were out there and they saw there was a need. They agreed to that. Then they also agreed that this dome isn't just a solution, it's a great solution because it gets off the ground really fast, enabling economic impact conservatively estimated at $1 million per year to happen very quickly. That's just the financial side. My colleague Dr. Kruger already talked about the human side of kids and all these other teams needing more lane space and not getting it. And so it's not just the swim team here today, it's all those, we have people from water polo and other groups here in support of this too. Some other great things about this is that it's the fulfillment of plans and promises. The outdoor swim pool was built in 2014, and if you read about it, it was built initially with plans to be covered with a thing like this dome. So it was designed and built with this in mind. And that wording is in there, initially with plans to cover it. It has been 7 years. How much longer do we need to wait? We have a great opportunity to do it now, to bring these meets and tournaments, not just for the swim team, but for other clubs that want to grow and hold tournaments too. This will be a great thing. Another thing this has allowed us to do is we have an Olympian in Rapid City. She swam on the racers. Without these kind of programs, we're making it hard for our kids to do things like this. We have kids who want to swim in college. They're not getting the time we want. We have kids who want to be Olympians. They're not getting their time they want. So to reiterate my colleague, we thank you, Council. We also hope that, like the Vision Committee, if you are interested, you'd be willing to come, to see, and to agree. Thank you.
Thank you. And now D'Amico Rodriguez.
Good evening, everybody. You guys are going to get sick of hearing from me also over the course of my career. But I'm here from Destination Rapid City on behalf of the many downtown business owners and investors in support of the Quiet Zone project that has been proposed by the city of Rapid City. We met last week, and the discussion was there are several and I can quote, $100 million committed into downtown Rapid City over the next few years for housing. I was the general manager of the Alex Johnson at one point in time, and when we talk about bringing visitors into the community, particularly downtown, as it stands right now, the trains that go through at ungodly hours at times, it's a disruption to business downtown as well as to the visitors who are trying to get a good night's sleep while attending the various swim meets and such in Rapid City. And so on that note, I do have letters of support from various business owners and executives from Live Hospitality, Rushmore Hotel, Lloyd Development that is building Block 5, Legacy that has already invested millions of dollars into an apartment complex downtown. And we would love to see this project go through. It is long overdue. Somerset has a quiet zone in its little community. And when I moved here several years ago, I wondered why we didn't have silent trains coming downtown. And as the president and CEO of Main Street Square, trying to speak on that stage when a train is going by is absolutely impossible. So we appreciate any consideration and support for that. I'm going to piggyback on that and say, yes, I would wish the Vision Committee would have supported Main Street Square and Destination Rapid Cities projects, but I know this is bigger and better for Rapid City. And this is something that Rapid City, if we're going to create a vibrant downtown, which we are on the cusp of, this is a pertinent project for our expansion. So thank you guys.
Okay, thank you. That'll conclude the general public comment portion of the meeting today. And now we'll get ready to handle the agenda items. Before we do that, I'd just like to introduce the Vision Fund a little bit and the Vision Committee members. The Vision Fund was really initiated in 1972. They didn't call it the Vision Fund back then. It was merely a city issuing bonds to fund the Rushmore Plaza Civic Center, the entire campus. And so they issued the bonds, and they used a half-cent of sales tax to pay it. When that was paid off in 1992, by design, by ordinance, that tax went away. Went back to the taxpayers. A year later, was reinitiated by a group of community leaders and a vote of the people, and it was voted back in 1993. And for a while there, it was called the Vision 2012 Fund. Well, eventually 2012 came, so they just renamed it the Vision Fund. The Vision Fund is regulated by city ordinance now. And this fund, along with the capital improvement program funds, come from the city's second penny in sales tax. Every city in South Dakota charges 1 penny in sales tax at least. They're allowed to charge a second penny. The first penny goes to general operating costs. The second penny typically goes for things like capital improvements. In Rapid City, we generally divided capital improvements and vision in half. So we took the second penny and we divided the second penny in half. Half to capital improvements and half to vision. I think after the last cycle of vision funding, the council, by ordinance, changed the allotment so that 0.58% of that second penny went to capital improvements and 0.42% went to vision. And so, moving on to the city ordinance, all of this is pretty specifically regulated. The vision account, the city shall by resolution adopt a plan for projects or programs to be funded in whole or in part from the vision account. And the council has done that when they met sometime in July or August and adopted a 3-year plan for this vision cycle. The city council is then authorized to issue revenue bonds to be paid from the fund if necessary in order to finance projects contained in the plan. That's not being proposed here with this round. The vision account may also be used to fund operational expenses of economic development projects or programs. That's the one exception to operations costs. The Vision Fund can fund operations for economic development. The procedure for approval of vision account projects. Once the City Council has adopted a plan, there will be public hearings. The City Council, for the most part, has free rein on how they choose which projects to fund. But they do, in fact, pursuant to the ordinance, assemble a group, well, the mayor puts together a group of citizens to receive applications, to vet those applications, and ultimately to present them to the City Council. So Prior to the beginning of any plan period, the mayor appoints this committee of 1 chairperson and 8 additional members. And this year, the chairperson is Kevin Maher. Stand up when I call your name, or wave if you're already standing. Kevin Maher is a retired banker and spent 37 years in various roles in banking and financial services. Jim Keck. Jim's a senior account manager for Black Hills Energy, where he has worked for 41 years. Bill Spindle. Bill's been active in higher education for 25 years and is currently the Vice President for Finance and Administration at the South Dakota School of Mines. Beth Keeney. Beth has served in various roles in education and is currently the principal of Robbinsdale Elementary. Marta Olson Rangich serves on the Christian Science Committee on publication for South Dakota for Christian Science Churches of South Dakota. Kevin Crosby. Kevin's the sustainability manager for Xanterra Travel Collection since 2014 and also serves on the city's sustainability committee. Jim Haar. Jim is the executive vice president and general manager of Golden West Telecommunications, and he's also a Boy Scout troop leader. Where's Jim? That's correct, right? Yep. Kim Morshing, Director of Juvenile Diversion in the Pennington County State's Attorney's Office. Christine Stevenson, pediatric physical therapist with LifeScape since 2008 and a former school board member. And I think I got that wrong. It's Stephenson, correct?
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Better late than never. Jennifer Rice, owner of Black Hills Vinyl in downtown Rapid City. And Al Rodriguez, president of Curry Masala Incorporated. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Callie Pearson, who has, she works for the mayor's office, but she has provided support to this committee since August and has helped them in a number of ways. So thank you very much to the committee for giving your time. This committee, by the way, please have a seat. The committee, by the way, conducted about 15 working sessions since August. They have made 22 site visits and meetings with people making presentings or presenting projects, and they've conducted 4 public hearings, all pursuant to city ordinance. So this is quite a task to say yes to the Vision Committee assignment, but we appreciate you doing so very much, so thank you. Let's see. Now, also, this committee is going to present to you here in a minute. They're going to give you a presentation. They're going to show you, talk to you about the process they went through, and they're going to ultimately show you in rank order the projects that they're recommending to the City Council. The ordinance also directs that the mayor will direct city staff to identify and bring forward projects for Vision Fund consideration, separate from what the committee is already doing. And so you'll hear about a few of those projects tonight also. Based on its work, then, the committee shall prioritize the proposed projects based on the criteria established in ordinance and make recommendations to the council whether or not projects should be funded. And the projects, selecting the projects is to take into consideration the goals and action items identified in the city's comprehensive plan and other guiding documents. And then there are a number of other details in there, like if the application is to fund a permanent structure, building, or facility, shall include an estimate of the project's ongoing operation and maintenance costs. And then, unless otherwise agreed upon or authorized by this ordinance, no operations costs may be funded by the Vision Fund. So that is, in a nutshell, there's much more to it, but in a nutshell, that is the Vision Fund as we know it today and your Vision Committee. So, Mr. Maher, I would start with item number 1, presentation of recommendations for Vision funding by the Vision Fund Citizen Committee.
Good evening, and thank you, Council, for this special meeting tonight. We're going to go through 16 projects that we are recommending funding. Beth Keeney is going to present half of them, and I'll present the other half. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the process we went through. We got together in August for our first working sessions. We reviewed the proposals. We received about an 8-inch thick binder of all the proposals. And then we decided it would be best for our committee if we would go visit these sites before we sat down and tried to make recommendations. So we did, as the mayor said, we visited 22 sites, and then we had a committee that established a scoring matrix. And the scoring matrix is based on the city's comprehensive plan and the 7 core values of the city. When we got done with all the site visits, then it was time to have the public hearings. So we had 4 public hearings. We had 24 proposals presented at those public hearings, and then we got into weekly working sessions where we ranked the projects. We scored them, and then we ranked them. And we're going to present tonight in the order, the highest ranked project, and as we go, and we're going to talk about funding because we ran out of money, but we got a plan for that. So we looked at projects that are consistent with the City Vision Fund criteria. And one of those criteria that I don't think some of our proposals understood when they made their proposals is that the Vision Fund money has to be used for infrastructure and for capitalized projects. It can't be used for maintenance, for repair, for equipment, standalone equipment. And so that created a little challenge when we were going through the proposals for recommendations. And then, as I mentioned, we scored on the 7 core values. Our key themes this year were, number 1, workforce housing, economic development, quality of life for all, and a sustainable vision. The Citizens Committee is recommending that the City Council extend the vision cycle from 3 years to 5 years. That's because, we'll get into that when we talk about our first project, but we're recommending spending $36 million, and that would require pulling money from year 4 and 5. Our number 1 project is the Haisapa OTP Community Center. This Native American Community Center meets a long-standing community need. It celebrates culture of Native American community and has strong backing within the community. This group requested $18 million. We're recommending $15 million for the community center. And there are some complications with this project that we won't, that we tried to stay away from. And so the $15 million, we don't think it's shovel ready. They don't have a site, they don't have detailed design, but we think that when they're ready to go, that the city should build this community center. So that's our number 1 project. Number 2 is the Rapid City Strategic Housing Trust Fund. This is to increase the workforce housing in Rapid City. It supports Rapid City housing strategy, provides a revolving capital to support development, and the funds would be available to private and nonprofit housing developers. They had asked for $7 million, and we're recommending $5 million. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to the next one. Excuse me, I'm going to go back to the, I'm going the wrong way. Now you saw all your slides. So we like the Rapid City Strategic Housing Trust Fund because it's going to be housed within the Black Hills Community Foundation, and they were trying to raise $44 million. If they can raise the $44 million, they believe that they can build help fund 1,500 housing units in Rapid City. So to do that, they need money, they need input from the city and the local government. So the request to get to $44 million is $7 million from the Vision Committee, from the city. I believe it's $2 million from the county and $5 million in philanthropy. So they've come to us for $5 million. The reason we settled on $5 million is because they will also receive an additional $1 million from the Dakota Charitable Foundation if the city contributes $5 million. So now it becomes, where do we get all the rest of this money? And if you watched Governor Nome last week, she recommended that the legislature approve $200 million for affordable housing. Well, it just so happens that 15% of the population of South Dakota lives here in Rapid City. So 15% of 200 million will give us that extra $30 million, and we will really make a dent in affordable housing need here in Rapid City. We also they had two other requests for housing, for apartments. We had the East Creek Village of townhouses for Habitat, and we had one from the Native American group. We feel that these groups should go to the trust fund to borrow money at a way below market cost to help fund their projects. That way the city would only have to be dealing with the trust fund, and I think it's easier to track the money and how it comes back into the fund. So number three, our third ranked project was Elevate Rapid City. They promote the ongoing business development, develop innovation and entrepreneurship. They contribute to our infrastructure improvement, and they focus on leadership development in the city, workforce housing, and military affairs. Elevate asked for $3 million. We recommend $2.5 million. Another thing that Elevate, if you'll notice, is doing is they're basically creating the innovation district. If you look at the Ascent building, we're now connecting downtown Rapid City with the School of Mines. And everything is underway. You can see the projects on almost every street. So we really believe that Elevate deserves this money. And we also recognize that the city has already invested a lot in Elevate by donating the land for the Ascent Center. Number 4, Special Olympics bocce ball courts. This is one where you had to go to the site visit to really appreciate what these young kids were doing playing bocce ball. But this provides an accessible and affordable recreation opportunities for all community members, and it revitalizes underutilized parks and recreation land. We're recommending funding of $530,000. The total cost is $679. However, there were a few things in their request that don't qualify for vision funds. Another interesting fact about the bocce ball courts is that would be 20 courts right on Omaha and Mount Rushmore Road there. So it would be very visible. The lights are already there. That's where the 2 tennis courts used to be. The lights are still functional. They would also need a restroom. So that's our number 4 project. And then I'm going to go ahead and do one more here, and then we'll let Beth have some. The next one is for the YMCA kitchen renovation. The request was $571,000. We're recommending 500. Excuse me. I go backwards again. Oops. I'm sorry. I was jumping ahead. So Beth Keenan will now talk about our fifth best project.
Thanks. South Dakota School of Mines is proposing a modernization of their locker rooms to make them ADA compliant, provide ADA compliant press box and skybox, the addition of training rooms and exam rooms and concession areas. As you can see from the picture, this is a mock-up of what they're thinking it could look like. It revitalizes the community's largest and most heavily used stadium, especially by our local high school students. It is the front porch, as they say, of the Innovation District, and it will strengthen the community connection of School of Mines and help with retention and recruitment. The cost of the project is $6.75 million. They are requesting $5.75. We are recommending $4.5 million for this project. Sioux Park Tennis Court Restoration. They are requesting a complete reconstruction of 12 tennis courts located at Sioux Park's sports complex, preserving the usability of a premier sports facility. These courts are open to the entire community and draw visitors from the surrounding region. The sport of tennis has boomed during coronavirus, and tournament participation has increased by 22% in 2020. The park is deteriorating and has increased risk of injury for those who utilize the facility. The cost is $3.34 million, and we recommend $3 million in funding. Project number 7 is the Central States Fair renovations. This request is to modernize the Soule building, 3 livestock barns, the Fine Arts building, and Creative Arts buildings. This funding supports a generous community partner in the Central States Fair and a premier showcase for agricultural tourism. These multi-use buildings are used by multiple government and civic agencies, such as the Judicial Court, Black Hills Playhouse, military appreciation events, and the Pennington County Emergency Management. The Black Hills, or the Central States Fair, donates more than $120,000 in goods and services to local nonprofits. They have requested $1 million, and we recommend $980,000. Number 8, Rapid Creek Whitewater Paddle Park. This proposal is for 3 engineered waves located at Founders Park and an area near Central States Fairgrounds. This whitewater paddle park will improve safety and usability of Rapid Creek. It mitigates potentially deadly low-head dam that is a liability for Rapid City by the fairgrounds, and it contributes to the recreation corridor and outdoor tourism industry, also improving the local fishing habitat. It's a draw for young professionals, and there are no ongoing maintenance costs, and we recommend full funding at $325,000.
Thanks, Beth. Now I can talk about the why. So, our number 9 project was the YMCA kitchen remodel. The why addresses local food insecurity, and this expands the capacity from about 750 meals a day to over 1,500. In addition to this renovation, the Y also has partnerships with many local organizations, including Wavy, the Hope Center, One Heart, Meals on Wheels, and they provide site meals for senior citizens every day and also for students or children in the summertime. So they had originally requested $571,000, but a significant portion of the kitchen equipment is not considered infrastructure, it's standalone equipment. So that's why we reduced the recommendation to $403,000. Number 10 is Main Street Square fountains. We went through there were a lot of things included in Main Street Square's request. However, the bulk of them did not qualify for vision funds, such as a Zamboni, a Kubota tractor. Those just don't qualify for vision funds. So we settled on providing $70,000 to replace the infrastructure for the fountain system, which currently is breaking down a lot during the peak summer when it is a draw for tourists and local residents. So $70,000 is our recommendation for Main Street Square fountains. The next one is the Black Hills Farmers Market Pavilion. We are recommending this project. It was our 11th ranked project. This will promote local agriculture and sustainable food sources. It facilitates a 4-season farmers market, and it provides fresh food to our citizens throughout the year. We are recommending full funding for this project of $1.2 million. And then we come to the dome. We've heard a little bit about the dome tonight. This is our 12th project. The Roosevelt Swim Dome, the big thing is it triples the capacity for indoor lap swimming. And that's 9 months of the year. That beautiful swimming pool sits empty 9 months out of the year. Not only that, but in June it's kind of cold. So we think this will facilitate swim meets, and it will allow our capacity for indoor swimming to continue and it is the only 50-meter pool in Rapid City. So we're recommending, there's two options on this, on their proposal. We're recommending the less costly one, and that is to recommend $1,015,000 to put up the dome over the Roosevelt outdoor pool.
Number 13 is the Bike Pump Track and Skills Park. This bike park includes a pump track, skills feature, and entry-level single track features. It's a great use of unutilized parklands off of Omaha and between Cross and Canal Streets. This enhances a strong mountain bike culture of the Black Hills and adds to the recreational corridor with an estimated additional users of 200 to 500 users per week. This is open and accessible, or would be open and accessible, for all levels of bikers. The requested amount is $600,000, and we recommend full funding. Number 14, Journey Museum. We are proposing to fund Phase 2 of the Journey Museum, which would expand capacity to grow collection of local historical artifacts by building an addition to house the archival storage. Journey is currently hiring a digital archivist and curator who will oversee and manage the institutional history of the Journey and community beginning from 1941. This improves the museum's ability to fulfill their mission and allow for greater and extended preservation of community history. They are asking for $917,000, and we are recommending $495,000. Number 15, McKeague Field improvements. McKeague Field is requesting some fencing and an indoor practice facility. We are submitting a request for submitting a recommendation to fund the indoor practice facility to provide a year-round activities. Currently, this highly used field is used by more than 400 people a year and have an open door policy that allows the use of facility by several groups in Rapid City. This would be a visual improvement for the high-use area in Rapid City. They are asking for $1 million, and we are recommending $445,000. And our final project is the Ignite Soccer Club field improvements, which would increase the usability of current park space and soccer fields off of Campbell Street. This project would install lights and build a public restroom along the bike path. This provides an additional outlet for youth participation. They requested $400,000, and we are recommending $292,000.
Thanks, Beth. So that kind of concludes our 16 projects. I guess we would be available for questions, or I don't know what your next step is.
Okay, questions for the Vision Committee. We'll go to Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So I'm not sure which one of you would like to answer, but I'll just tell you what my question is, and then whoever wants to answer it can. Item number 5, the School of Mines project. Does the Board of Regents, are they involved in this project at all in funding it? It's their responsibility to fund things that go on at the colleges and universities across the state. Are they participating in funding for this?
No, but our understanding is that the Board of Regents will not appropriate money for a stadium or a recreational building, so that it needs to come from a combination of donations. One thing we point out about O'Hara Stadium is that is the high school stadium for Central and Stevens. And it's also home of the state track meet every other year. So it brings in a huge economic impact to Rapid City, but it also is going to help connect South Dakota Mines with downtown.
Is the school district participating in this at all?
No, they're supporting the project, but they are not providing funding.
So they're supporting it, but not with any funding, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Currently, I think it was mentioned, Beth may have mentioned this, but that stadium does not have a women's locker room, and that's kind of a serious issue. They have the visiting teams, the high school teams that come here from Sioux Falls or wherever to play Central and Stevens. They are put in a tin shed out at the end of the track. That's where they spend their halftime at the games. And then after the game, they get back on their bus and leave. It's School of Mines Stadium looks good when you drive by, but until you go inside and see the condition it's in, you know, and that's why I think some of the council members should go out and visit some of these sites.
Sure, I don't disagree with the importance of it. There's a lot of people involved in using the facility, and throwing the burden of funding a project of this size on one group, I struggle with that just a little bit. My next question, the project for the Central States Fair, is the county contributing any money to this $1 million project?
Not to renovating these 4 buildings.
So the Vision Fund is being asked to fully support this project, even though it's a county-owned building and it's the county fair, et cetera, et cetera.
It is, but these buildings are used by 250 events a year. Almost every weekend there are events going on out at the fairgrounds. So this is really bringing people to Rapid City. We were out there touring the site during the Western Youth Livestock Show, and it was amazing the number of people that were out there. So the other thing that I think the county points out is that, you know, the county brings in people, but they don't get any of that sales tax. And of course, they have their own taxes pretty high. But as a committee, I think where the committees come from, and you all have a little different job to do. That you have to approve the funding. We approved it because we really believe that the Central States Fairgrounds is critical to Rapid City, and we were citizens. We're all citizens on this committee. We pay county taxes and we pay city taxes. We think this is a good use of vision money.
Oh, I don't disagree at all with the importance of it. Again, it's just there's a lot of people using the facilities, and the cost of that, I believe, should be shared amongst those that benefit from it. That's all. I'll reserve my time. Thank you.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the Vision Fund Committee. You put in a lot of hours, and we greatly appreciate all your work and dedication, all of you. And your recommendations come with a lot of weight, at least they do with me, and I'm sure my colleagues as well. It's just, once again, I want to thank you for being such engaged citizens. I think that's incredible. Also want to thank all of you for being here tonight, taking time out of your Monday night to be here and to be enthusiastic about the projects that you support. We probably won't make a final decision tonight, in case, that's my guess anyways, you never know what will happen, but just so your expectations are set appropriately. Tonight, for me, is really about taking in the information and learning more about why we're recommending these projects. And also just want to thank all the taxpayers of Rapid City for even making this possible. And obviously we want to be good stewards and make sure that we select projects that benefit the whole community. And there are several on here I really like, especially things like Elevate, the Strategic Housing Fund, the Swim Center, Central States Fair. Those sorts of things are great, great projects, and look forward to seeing what happens with that in the future. Couple of things. I asked our Finance Director, Pauline Sumption. Pauline, right now we have a 3-year budget. Would you mind reminding us what that 3-year allocation would be, and then what years 4 and 5 are projected to be? We know that's way ahead in the future, but your best guess, please.
Okay, so for the first 3 years, what I gave the committee was $24.2 million was the projected allowance for projects. If you add 2 more years, that would add another $15.1 million for a total of $39.3.
Okay, thank you. With that information in hand, one recommendation I make to the council to consider as we deliberate is separating out the request from the Indian Boarding Lands for the Native American Community Center. I think we ought to separate that out, not allocate years 4 and 5, so leave 4 and 5 off the table, focus the rest of our energy on the rest of these projects, and use the 1 through 3 million year funding source for the 24.2, because I think the complexities of that particular one is going to require a lot more discussion than perhaps some of these other projects, and so I think maybe the wise thing for us to do is to consider that separately from the rest of these projects, so that as we move forward we can have good discussion on both, because I think they have their own discussions and things to consider. With that, I'll yield for right now, see what my other colleagues have to say. Thank you.
Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess when I'm looking at some of these, I want to almost take out some of the higher number requests right now because I simply feel as a group, we just don't know that much about them. And I'm speaking specifically of the quiet zone downtown. We went through this before, and it was told to this group that it could be a big hazard because we don't have any horns blowing downtown, and that the railroad tracks are often used by people to walk on in the evening, and we were told that could be a dangerous thing for us to get into. Now, I understand that we need quiet downtown if we're going to sell motel rooms, but we have to look at a couple different sides of that. So I don't want to just jump into that one right away. With the Indian lands, also a huge, huge project with an enormous history. I looked at this, and I'm just going to say to my colleagues right now, I could go for the Bennett-Clarkson area is 9.5 million. I could say that's what you get now with an MOU for the rest of it. You know, these things take a long time. We know they do. Right now we haven't seen any real, we don't know where the land would be. We don't know what the project would be like. This is something we've needed in our area for a very, very long time. And so I want to get this done. But I think there's some things that we have to be aware of, and I have to be made sure that we're giving the money to the group that we're supposed to. When this came up to it the first time, it was $2 million a year for 20 years. That's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to figure this out. It didn't happen. So now we're being asked to do it all at once. And I think that's kind of a slippery slope. And so not that this group doesn't deserve it, not that we can't afford it, but I want to see it done the right way. Another thing that bothered me as I went through this, you know, the School of Mines deal, I think we just redid your track a few years ago to the tune of a few $1 million, did we not? Now, if you have a place where women are changing in a tin shack, and there's not a lawsuit brought against that group, very soon I'll be surprised.
I'm sorry, there's no women's locker room, but the women aren't changing in the tin shack.
That is what I heard.
They have to come ready to play, and then they leave and go home and shower, go to their hotel and shower.
Okay. I guess I must have misheard that wrong, or maybe you were just trying to catastrophize a bit, but whatever is going on there cannot stand, and I don't know if we're the people that are going to pay for it. There's something here in the Special Olympics that I love this group. I really do. I happen to know they just raised $625,000 with their polar plunge. So giving them $575,000 might not be the thing that I can say yes to right now. I like the idea of a dome for the swimming group, but I just don't know enough about it. I don't even know if this price is realistic. And, but I think it's the good general way to move with that project. I really do. I think that's a good thing. That's something I like. I like the tennis courts too. I can say yes to those. I really like that. The Paddlers project, I just don't know enough about it, so maybe next time we get together, because I don't think this is going to be over tonight, I'd like to know a little bit more about it. It seems kind of interesting, kind of cool, and a good use of our water resources. So those are some things I've got percolating, guys. I'm just putting it all out there. I know it's a lot of information, but you know, I see some of these places, the YMCA asking for money. We were just told we shouldn't be feeding people that need, that are homeless. I don't know if this is for them. Who is this for? Who is this feeding Does anybody know? Who does kitchen feed?
As I mentioned, they currently feed the Y daycare, the after-school programs that are around the community. They also provide the meals for One Heart at lunchtime, One Heart, the Hope Center, Wavy, Meals on Wheels, and they also serve free meals to senior citizens at the Y.
All good stuff. All really good stuff. I just don't know if we're the ones that should be paying for these things. You know, I would like to see the biggest part of Rapid City benefit from this money. I was here during the flood. I know why this money exists. I saw the first Civic Center go up. I'm proud of what we've done, super proud. But I want to make sure that these projects hit the most people. And for that reason, I don't know if I can support the funding for housing, because it's just individual families. I want a tennis court that all kinds of people can go to. I want a swimming thing that all kinds of people can go to. I don't want to provide that one home for that one family, and I'm sorry. But that doesn't feel like what we should do. We're not a real estate company. We're not developers. We are here for the city. So that's my overall feeling when I look at this right now. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the committee for all of their hard work, as well for putting all the hours and site visits and everything else, and dealing with all the minutia that you had to get involved with, reviewing all the applications, and so I'm hoping I'm not putting you through a third degree, or I'm just asking questions to get better informed. So my questions have to do around the matrix or the scoring system that you established. And what I'm curious about, if you can provide us or me or whoever of this city council that scoring matrix, how you came up with the values for these individual projects. Primarily what I'm interested in is the 7 core values, who achieved all those 7 core values. And then for me, the tiebreaker is the return on investment. And what that means to me is if we provide funding for these different groups on here, how much do we get back? Is there a way to measure that? So that's some of my questions. And if you want to wait until I get all done with these questions, that if you want to write it down, it's okay too. To me, I need a little bit more clarification on the spreading around. One of the terms that's used in my understanding is this is like spreading peanut butter around, and how did you come up with that rationale for determining who gets what and how much? So the revenue is being spread around. I'm also very curious about all the sports activities that come forward this year. For me, I'm interested in seeing if there is a commission or some type of group that came and got support from, say, for example, the Parks Advisory Board. Are they on board with all of this as well? And then, and just a kind of an editorial comment here is that we're starting to see a great number of applicants, which I love to see. But I'm starting to wonder if we shouldn't start seeing a raise in the threshold of their applicants, to kind of not put so much hope in all of those agencies that were requesting and then didn't make it to that final cut. And it kind of divides us up into the good guys and the bad guys, or some kind of connotation that makes it appear that some of these people aren't qualified for one reason or another. and I totally understand the direction that you were giving as far as infrastructure. I'm another infrastructure guy too, so I want to see that taking place. For me, I'm not ready to make a vote tonight, and primarily for a couple of reasons. I would like to take a look at your slide presentation one more time, a little bit closer, review the matrix, and then also I want to get a chance to listen to the mayor's presentation, and I see the staff is going to make also comments. Again, I want to thank you folks for coming up with these recommendations, and hopefully I'm not giving you the third degree process. And again, I want to thank the citizens for participating, not only coming down here and giving us great projects to review, and also I want to thank the citizens that give us that portion of the sales tax, and also to the visitors to Rapid City, because they gave us some sales tax revenue as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. If you want to respond to all of this, I'll be glad to entertain.
I don't think I can cover it all up right now, but I can tell you that we did look at each project very carefully to see who benefits from this. We counted people who attend projects, people that play baseball. We also looked at, the soccer and the swim center as this is for boys and girls. It's not just for boys. We bypassed Little League this time because Little League was asking for $1 million, and we thought we got to make sure that we're covering women's sports. So that was part of the rationale there. It's not a scientific thing. A lot of it's emotion. We all voted, and we ranked the projects, but we can share with you our matrix that show how we connected to the core values. But that's not the final ranking. We actually went off individual committee members voting. What was their number one project? So we can certainly share that with you. We will probably blank out the names because some people, we have a spreadsheet that shows how everybody voted, but some of them don't want that shared. So we can do that. And if I could just follow up one more time with Councilwoman Drew, the South Dakota Special Olympics is donating $120,000 to the Bocce Ball project. Okay. But the courts will actually be owned by Parks and Recs and managed by Parks and Recs, and it'll give them the opportunity to have a Bocce Ball league in Rapid City. So.
Well, thank you for clearing that up. I really appreciate it because I just know what they recently raised, so it's good to know it's going to go back to the community. Thank you.
Okay, and I think Christine Stephenson would like to share something before she has to leave. So.
Hi, I'm Christine, and I have to leave for an orchestra concert, but I wanted to just take 2 minutes to thank you for the opportunity to serve on the committee. I wrote this all to you, but I wanted to reiterate it here, that if you were to ask me the top 10 things that I love about this town, they are vision projects. And so that really was a guiding factor for me, and I think for our whole committee, in what do we want to recommend. The town has a lot of needs, but we wanted to have, we stayed focused on what's going to draw our kids back. So Richie, when you ask about return on investment, I am a return on investment. I wouldn't be here. I don't think I'd be here if it weren't for the Skyline Drive Wilderness Area, the Roosevelt Swim Center, the Sioux Park tennis courts, the bike path. I mean, and I know the bike path is one of the original vision projects and wasn't called that, but that's your return on investment. And so I wanted to address that before I go. This committee chose, we had a matrix, we chose to rank the projects in the end based on what we felt, and these were extensive site visits. And you should, if you don't believe us, go visit the sites. The projects that we went on are well planned. We considered that. We considered ongoing funding. We considered ongoing maintenance. They're good projects. And the last thing I wanted to say is that we ranked the community center #1, and we chose as a committee to rank it. When we decided what to rank, we decided to leave out the lands problem that's yours to work with. We just ranked it. Everybody ranked it on their own. We didn't have any discussion, and that came out #1 overwhelmingly. That is a vision fund. That is what will help kids come back to this town. Kids who don't look like me and kids who do. So I'd ask you to consider that not as a separate thing to solve a legal issue, but as something that is a vision for this town that we all really strongly, or felt strongly about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. The group, I appreciate what you've done. I've sat up here on several different Vision Fund committees. I echo what the young lady said there earlier about some of the things that keeps people in Rapid City. Most generally, the Vision Fund projects that have happened in the past have been pretty good shining stars for the community. It gives opportunity for all walks of life to utilize them. I think when you look at the core values that they mentioned, they're talking about the core values that the city put forward. And I think also when you talk about the fairgrounds, I didn't want to pick on each individual one, but I want to kind of compare and contrast to what's happened in the past and try to draw from some wisdom and understanding, the committee that puts together all these recommendations. I really appreciate it beyond even what I could tell you, because I understand you go through a large process, you come up with these things, and then we sit up here and beat them up and come up with our own, in the end, our own, what we're going to vote on. So understand that, and I appreciate Mr. Maher for your candor when you talk about going back to the fairgrounds, and you talk about the school district, you talk about the fairgrounds. Every one of you out here that live in this community provide funding for all those. It's the same pot of money. It's the same people. We must understand that. We must start working together as a community to really make the community what we want it to be. The fairgrounds is the county, the city is, I think it's probably 75–80% of the people that live in the county live in Rapid City. So, and Mr. Maher eloquently pointed out, the county does not receive any sales tax revenues. For some reason, it's a state law that hasn't been overcome yet, and it ties their hands on some of the funding they can do, what they've done. And I'm not proposing or advocating for one of their projects or not, but it's something that we as a council need to recognize. The school district, tax dollars are paid by all you people out here. When you pay your tax bill every year, 60% of your property tax bill goes to the school district. So if you want to charge them more, it just comes from the same people. What I have found out in these projects is that when we look at these projects and we get deep into making a decision on one of these projects, we need to fund the whole project. We need to make sure the project gets done, and we need to fund the whole project in its entirety so they're not hanging out there with a $500,000 note that they think a bunch of soccer kids are going to pay at the end of the day. That just causes a lot of confusion and problems at the end. So if we short of funds, we short the list. I don't think that we're here to make any decisions today, but I do want to touch on the Indian Lands Trust thing since people have talked on it here. I've been on this council, and we've looked at the cultural gap with the native population in Rapid City, and it's a tough thing for us to get around. It is one of the largest showcase items that this country has to offer and this state has to offer, yet we've been not able to ever get over that hump. When we did the Civic Center, I advocated for a $20 million outdoor amphitheater that could be used as a powwow ground and a proving ground, a rodeo ground, something that could be managed by the fairgrounds and everybody could participate. I'm really not interested in tying the Indian school lands together with this project. I mean, if they looked at them separately and looked at them for the outcome of the project, I'll be good with it. We started, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, we started down that road. It didn't come to fruition. That doesn't mean that we should give up on the project. It means we just need to find a better avenue to make it happen. I think tonight we haven't heard from the staff on the items that they're bringing forward yet, just the ones that the council, this committee had recommended in order that they recommended them. And to that, I commend you guys for the hard work you put into it. And I'd like to get more information, if Mr. Maher, if you can share this PowerPoint presentation with the council. I think that would help us in moving forward. I'm not sure what my colleagues want to do, but I've been down this road. Find the ones that you want to fund the project, work with the people on the project, make sure we got a good handle on the project, and look at what it's going to cost the taxpayers in the future to run that project or not cost the taxpayers. I mean, I've been on this council from, like, I noticed the adult league softball here. When they started that project, I think we played softball at old Robbinsdale softball fields, and there was garbage coming up through the fields, and we worked hard and finally got the city to buy into a $2 million project. Now it's coming back. They need 1.2 just for concrete, but that thing's been there, and there's hundreds of teams. Girls softball, if everybody's seen Parkview, that is a huge success. There's maybe a couple thousand girls playing softball in those parks. The tennis courts that were put in on the south part of town, huge success. And the list goes on and on. I mean, on some of these projects that work, but I did find out that if you fund the whole project and you make sure you got a good project set up front, and that's the project you fund, you're going to win. If you try to piecemeal that project together or don't have a good plan up front, it's not going to be a winning project in the end, and it's not going to serve what we want it to serve. You know, I'm not going to go down the road and answer why sports or those types of things. I mean, you get in park sports, stuff like that. The committee was set up to do what the applications they got. They didn't go out and solicit applications. They took what came to them, and they went through the process as they were supposed to do and brought us these recommendations. And I think that they'll weigh heavily on my decisions on how they were vetted. I'll probably have lots of questions going forward because, like I said, the main thing to me is that we fund the project, get it done, and, you know, go work with that, whoever it is, work with the city to get that project done. So, thank you.
Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank the committee for their hard work and excellent work on this. It's not an easy job, I'm sure, and there was a lot of hours and a lot of tough discussions that took place, and so we really do appreciate that. I think that's why this particular vision fund can even work, is because of citizens that will volunteer their time like that. And I don't want to repeat some of the questions, which I have the same questions as some of my other council members have, but following up on what Councilman Weifenbach was talking about, funding the whole project, and I was really interested in the dome project, because I think that is a can't miss. I think that's just we have a facility that we've put a lot of money into that's not used for 8 months of the year, and I just have a question as to why were there not two different dome proposals and you selected one of them? I guess, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so one was much larger dome that would allow for more spectators at swim meets. The reason the committee didn't go with that one was because it involved removing, I think, a historic wall and cutting down several very large trees. So we thought we would go with the one that gives us the pool but doesn't create an issue with the park. There's a stone wall that goes near that pool that's protected, somehow protected, and we didn't want to go there. And plus, they would have had to cut down, I don't know, 6 to 8 just, you know, huge trees, and we didn't want to see those trees go.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's a great explanation. And then I think the School of Mines project is something that's much needed, and the entire community does use the School of Mines facility there. For the high school football games there, the state track meet, I'd hate to lose the state track meet because we don't have facilities to handle it. We've had, I think, a really good partnership with School of Mines over the years, and I would just like to see us continue to do that and continue to incorporate the School of Mines into Rapid City. It is absolutely a world-class institution, and anything we can do to work together with them, I think everyone will benefit from that. And the last one, I guess, is the Sioux Park tennis courts, and I also think that's a much-needed project. Just curious as to what the scope of that is, and I think you said that it was not fully funded in your recommendation?
We left off, I think, about $300,000 because some of the project included things like video displays, audio, portable bleachers, which don't really qualify for vision funds. It is a complete redo of that tennis court. There's a big drainage issue below the courts, and they've repaired them and they just crack up again. So it really is a major project. But that's kind of one of the most visible venues in the city, and we have some national tournaments that would like to come to Rapid City. The state tennis meets, they're probably at some point not going to be able to come here because of the cracks, and we all know of some people that have fallen there and got hurt. So.
And the other thing I would note about the tennis courts is there's been groups, private groups, that have done fundraising and tried to find other things, whether it's U.S. Tennis Association grants, or I know the dermatologists have put up sunscreens there and at the softball field also. And I think I really appreciate when groups that want to have a vision fund project like this also get in there and roll up their sleeves and see what they can do to contribute to the process. So I think that's really a commendable project also. And once again, I just want to thank the committee for all the work that they did and for the citizens that follow this. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Pat Jones for a minute and a half.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Maher and your committee, I apologize for just diving in and starting to ask questions. I wanted to get in and respect everyone's time, so if I offended any of you by doing that, I apologize, and I do thank you all very much for your work. Blue Ribbon Committee, man, oh man, and I thank you. And I went to Robbinsdale Elementary, so love Robbinsdale. I would encourage my colleagues to strongly consider removing item 1 from consideration at this time, just because there are a great deal of questions as to whether or not this project can move forward, standing of the organization, shovel-ready project, et cetera. So I would ask everyone to consider removing that. I very much support the East Creek project for Habitat for Humanity. It's an area of town that is in desperate need of affordable housing. It's a piece of land that is available. We know no one's making more land these days, and where this land is at, it's accessible for people, for grocery stores, for other shopping, a perfect place to build and develop a neighborhood. So I would encourage my colleagues to consider plugging some money into that project as well, because there's a great need in that area for affordable housing, workforce housing, and it would then perhaps piggyback onto other projects going down the creek, bike path, helping the Humane Society, getting all the way down to the Star of the West facility. So it could be not only a great project to provide housing now, but also a springboard project to expand what that part of town has to offer. So I would encourage my colleagues to consider plugging some money into that as we move forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Bill Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier you mentioned, Mr. Maher, that you had a set of values. Could you go back and mention those again, if you can recall them without going back to the slides?
Well, what we did is, it's actually part of the city ordinance. It asks us to please look at the comprehensive plan. We looked at the comprehensive plan and we took out the 7 core values, and then we developed our weighting, how we would vote, or how we would score, and then each individual member scored each project by each core value, and that's the matrix that we built. It's not, again, it's not scientific. We're all different people and we had different preferences.
Well, thank you for the comments from all my fellow councilmen up here. There were some really good points brought up. In my set of values, it includes the ability to discriminate between what I want, what I need, and what I'm obligated to do. Now, I need a new car. I want a Mercedes like Mr. Lehman, but I bought a Volkswagen, okay? Now, I think we're obligated to do certain things in our life. We're obligated to take care of our family, to pay our bills, to honor our parents, to take care of our veterans, to do things like that. And those are obligations to me. And I did present to the committee a proposal for beginning a flood memorial. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary next summer. Now, this week we saw the devastation that happened in Kentucky. And as bad as that is, and the horrific scenes we're seeing, the loss of life in Rapid City was 4 times what they've discovered there. And it is time to do this. So my question for you is, I see all of these proposals, and I could put them in a matrix, and I could say, I want, I need. I would actually say number 1 is an obligation. The natives have waited long enough, 150 years. So I'd say that's kind of an obligation. But why was not 1 penny provided to start an appropriate flood memorial to memorialize the lives and the losses of those 238 people? Because to me, that is an obligation that supersedes so many other things on this list. So I'd like an explanation for that. Thank you.
Okay, well, the committee did vote. Each individual voted, and that project just didn't make the cut. As we mentioned, we met with you twice on that project, and what I noticed about the project and all of those memorials, all those bell towers across the country that were built, they were all led by a philanthropist. And so we think that to build a memorial to the flood, the city shouldn't put up the first $7 million. It should be a philanthropist.
Well, I would disagree with that. I think the event that most shaped this city would be a high priority for all citizens to honor that. You know, Bob Dole worked for 25 years straight to get the World War II memorial done. Now, I don't know why anybody wouldn't support that. But listening to the story of that this last weekend, I mean, I was shocked. Why wouldn't people support that? I think that should have been done by all the citizens of this country. And I believe we should all be memorializing the people that lost their lives and all of that loss of property and history and everything that went along with that. So I'm just curious about that value that would put a football stadium or tennis courts, because I totally support these things. I don't play tennis anymore, I haven't since high school, but I do support that. And I think these amenities are important to the city. But we can never shirk our obligation to what we must do as a citizen and a leader sitting up here for our community. So that's all I'm going to say about this. But I'm disappointed in this list for that reason. And I think many of these projects, as Darla has said, there are other sources of funding for these. And I think with all this infrastructure money coming down from Washington, and there's going to be a lot, we're going to find places to fund so many of these other things. But trust me, I doubt that we're going to find another source to begin memorializing our own community and its loss. So I'm disappointed for that reason. Thank you.
Okay, that wraps it up for the questions from the council on the for the projects presented by the Vision Committee. Thank you all very much for being here, making that presentation. Now we'll transition over into the city projects that will be presented by city staff.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the council. Sarah Hansel with the Planning Projects Division. The Community Development Department is pleased to present the proposed project for the Railroad Quiet Zone in downtown Rapid City. As you know, there's been a great deal of both private and public investment in the downtown area over the last numerous years, and we see that as being a result of proactive planning, partnership, and beyond that, implementation. And that's what we hope that you will see this project as well, is further implementation of our vision for downtown Rapid City. From a planning perspective, this project aligns with many of the core values of both the city's comprehensive plan and the downtown master plan. The downtown master plan looks at making Rapid City more livable, connected, active, welcoming, and prosperous. And certainly reducing noise pollution from the train would have a great deal of benefit for all of those who live, visit, invest in, and just enjoy being downtown. Our city's comprehensive plan looks at making sure that our transportation network is efficient and also works well for our community. And it specifically says that the city should investigate the feasibility of railroad quiet zone. And that's something that we've done with a feasibility study that was conducted in 2018, and my colleague Kip is going to tell you more about that. Why is this project important? So many people visit downtown. There are thousands of people who work downtown, who come to visit, who live here, who play at Main Street Square, who have small businesses, who come and stay downtown to visit the Black Hills. Reducing noise pollution would have an incredible impact on increasing the quality of the experience downtown, and it would further support the many other investments that have been made downtown, such as Main Street Square, retooling our parking strategy, all of the public and private investments that have been made. This will continue to work on that. So at that point, I'm going to turn it over to Kip to talk about the 2018 feasibility study and more of the details of what this proposal would include.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening. Kip Harrington, Long Range Planning Manager. As Sarah mentioned, we did this feasibility study in 2018 as recommended by the Comprehensive Plan. The study was approved by the City Council in August of 2018 at a cost of approximately $21,500. $17,620 of that came from our Metropolitan Planning Organization federal planning funds, and the city match was just under $4,000. So the study took a look at creating a quiet zone and the feasibility of that through downtown Rapid City. There are 11 at-grade railroad crossings between Maple Avenue and 11th Street. We took a look at all 11, but 3 were eliminated from consideration, the 2 on Omaha Street that go to the mill, and the northern Maple Avenue crossing, which is used primarily for train storage. There is no active rail traffic on that. So that leaves a total of 8 crossings for further analysis, and those go from east to west from Maple Avenue, East Boulevard, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Streets, 5th, 6th, and 7th Streets, Mount Rushmore Road, West Boulevard, and 11th Street. So the first part of the study was to establish the crossing risk and a baseline for our safety, which is known as the risk index with horns, which determines what the safety is when your standard train crosses blowing its horn as required by Federal Railroad Administration regulations. And then we took a look at what types of safety measures could be used in place of the railroad trains blowing their horns at each crossing. So these include, from the upper left, 4-quadrant gates, also some medians, delineator posts, changing the traffic to one-way on certain streets, and even in some instances, closure of the crossing itself. And then all those were put into a matrix to determine the cost-effectiveness ratio, which is dollars per quiet zone risk index reduction. And so it was all ranked on each different type of treatment for the crossing, and then how much the risk reduction would be available. And this allowed us to come up with about 5 different scenarios, including our baseline scenario, which is the current risk index with horns, all the way from a high safety down to just the downtown core crossings only. And for this project, we have chosen the high safety option. It is the most expensive, but also it is the one that provides the greatest decrease in risk index and provides the most safety for this community. So the summary of the study determined that a downtown quiet zone is feasible. The scenarios range from $1.7 to $4.4 million. For our Vision Fund proposal, we added an inflation factor to the initial cost estimate and came up with an updated estimate of costs at approximately $5.5 million. I know we do have some letters of support through Main Street Square, so I'd like to thank D'Amico for his public comment on that, and some of the downtown business people are here in support as well. And we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Sarah and Kip. Very good presentation. Appreciate it. So can you put a little flesh on the bones? What will be different? What will look different for people driving up to these spots? What will they experience different than what we have now? Thank you.
So currently, most of our railroad crossings downtown just have flashing lights. This would incorporate 4-quadrant crossing arms that would drop down to eliminate traffic from being able to cross the railroad tracks when a train is coming. That would eliminate the train from blowing its horn, but for a point for Ms. Drew, that Federal Railroad Administration regulations state that if a train engineer sees danger, they are allowed to blow their horn. So if there's a car stuck in the tracks, if someone's on the tracks, then they would blow their horn to alert that the train is coming. But in absence of any danger, this would silence the trains throughout downtown Rapid City, stretching from Maple Avenue on the east to 11th Street on the west. Not every treatment would be 4-quadrant gates because of some geometric limitations, but that would be the majority of the crossings would involve 4-quadrant gates, which would be the arms that would drop down and block the railroad crossing. And it's 4 quadrants to make sure no one can drive around the gates and cross the tracks.
Would those, pardon me, would those arms have flashing lights?
Yes, they would have flashing lights, and they are, and then they would come down and block the traffic.
So in a nutshell, the quiet zone is established by the arms coming down, the lights flashing. You getting worried about me, Jason? Sorry. And then, since the horn won't be blowing, the quiet zone is established.
That is
and
correct.
The intersections are much safer because those arms are down, lights are flashing. It prevents the potential of higher or more accidents, and it's quiet throughout all of those 8 zones.
That is correct. The risk index is gradually decreased by the different treatments, and the 4-quadrant arms are generally the safest treatment available.
And that's it, right? Is there anything that I'm missing in grasping my understanding of it?
There is a process where we have to work with the Federal Railroad Administration to incorporate this and get this off the ground, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
So would the city then have ownership of all of this process, the arms, the lights, everything?
That is correct. The city would own and operate them, and they would be maintained by the city. We have spoken with Dale Tech, our Public Works Director, and he has assured us that this would not be a burden upon his staff, that they do a lot of this maintenance on traffic signals and things like this already, and they would be available to maintain and operate these improvements.
Would you say that we have the staff on board right now, either enough staff or staff with the expertise needed to take this project on?
My understanding from Director Tech is that, yes, we are currently staffed well enough to be able to accomplish this.
Okay, thank you.
And Kip, also, the arms also are there for pedestrian traffic as well?
That is correct. They will block pedestrian traffic from crossing the tracks as well.
Okay, thank you. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I was one of the original folks that was on the committee to help it. So full disclosure, I helped out on the original study. But Kip, would you explain to us the reasons why these intersections were picked? If I recall correctly, you got a minimum distance that we have to cover. Say, if I remember correctly, it's a half mile that we have to cover, and nothing short of that.
That is correct. With the number of crossings that we have and the closeness of them, the way they're spaced out, we would have to do a minimum of a half mile, and this covers that pretty well.
This does. And then I guess one of the other areas of concern that I have, and I don't know that you can answer this question, but it seems like we're, just from an observation point of view, and maybe that you can, somebody can quantify it, not necessarily the city staff, but we have, I believe we are dealing with lost time in calls, in-person visits, because as a train comes by, and I've attended several Main Street Square events that when the train comes through, it's virtually impossible to even speak on the PA system. So there's lost time in that. And then one other factor, and again, I don't know who could be able to answer this, but in the lost time as well is people are losing sleep in this. We've got a motel downtown, and that motel is, a hotel is already experiencing calls or comments about the lost sleep. So my concern as the downtown area develops, the people that have lodging downtown, and we got a potential of a future hotel coming into downtown, they're going to hear that train coming through in the middle of the night or 3, 4 o'clock in the morning as well. So I'm concerned that we're going to hear similar complaints for the loss of sleep. If you can answer that or send me in a direction of somebody that could quantify those variables.
We just have some anecdotal comments from some of the downtown hotel owners on giving out 50,000 pairs of earplugs a year for their guests so they can sleep as the train goes by. And it's not just the hotel industry. We're also looking, as Sarah said, at getting more people living downtown. More people living and working downtown makes our downtown more vibrant, increases the business viability of downtown. And I personally know people that have moved away from downtown to escape the train noise in the middle of the night.
Thank you, and I also know that somebody moved into that area, and now they're regretting that move. So thank you for those comments. Thank you, Mayor. I yield.
Okay, Jason Solomon.
Thank you. This is just a notification for the council that I will have to abstain from this particular vote as I have a conflict of interest. Just thought I'd make that clear. Thank you.
Work for the railroad, or?
All the livelong day.
Huh? This one item. Okay, Bill Evans.
Well, I want to let you know that when I was in Lincoln over Thanksgiving vacation, I went down and sat by one of their quiet crossings to see how it all worked, and it does. They have probably 25 viaducts approaching downtown. They solved the problem of train crossings over the last 50, 75 years, like even Sioux Falls and Mitchell and Huron and Aberdeen did, and for some reason Rapid City got stuck with the one overpass on 44. But this solution does work, but it doesn't address the ongoing problem of the future that a city that's going to be 100,000, 150,000, you know, some people are saying another 40,000 in the next 10 years, of these major arterials being blocked for up to 10 or 15 minutes at times, in particular right out here on 5th Street, and even worse down there on St. Pat, where traffic backs up as far as Rushmore Road on certain times when those trains stop. So is there any kind of study being done about rerouting tracks? I do know that the main line of the Burlington Northern, which is obviously a lot more, you know, a lot more traffic than we'll see here, was moved several blocks in Lincoln when they started redeveloping the Haymarket area about 20, 25 years ago. So has there ever, I know, and also Reno, 40 some years ago, they buried their track right through the city. So when you cross all the streets in downtown Reno, you look down at the top of the train. They lowered it. That's a really expensive proposition. But has there been such a study ever even attempted here? Thanks.
Not to my knowledge, sir. There's not been a study. However, we are starting to have some preliminary discussions as part of our Campbell Street structure study about maybe eliminating that Campbell Street structure and moving the railroad switchyard to the south of town, which would then eliminate the need for that overpass structure. And so that this study is just getting kicked off, so that's one of the options we'll be looking at. And by moving that structure to the south, that would eliminate a lot of the train switching operations, which tend to clog up traffic, especially in the southeastern part of town.
Okay, that appears to be all the questions for Railroad Quiet Zone. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for your time.
Now we'll switch over to Melissa and Scott from the Parks and Recreation to talk about a couple of projects.
All right. Hi, I'm Melissa Peterson. I am the landscape designer for the city, and I am speaking on behalf of Parks and Recreation tonight. I'm really excited to talk to you about this project. We really have a good feeling about it, and we hope that you see the same vision for this project as we do. To give you a brief overview, the area we're talking about is the Knollwood drainage area. Sometimes it's called Knollwood Heights Park. Are there any council members that aren't aware of where I'm talking about? Okay. For anyone listening in, it's in the area south of the interstate, north of Anamosa, and between North Maple and La Crosse Streets. It is kind of in between the businesses on La Crosse and the apartments at the Knollwood Drive area. Our total request for this project is about $1.26 million, and this conceptual plan done by Wiss Associates includes a paved walking path, lighting, seating, play equipment, and irrigation. It's important to note that it will remain functional as a drainage area, as it serves the neighborhood stormwater runoff. And our main goals for this project are really to help improve neighborhood safety, as well as increase outdoor recreation opportunities for all ages. Just for a little bit of context and why we think this is so important, is that this would serve North Rapid City mostly. That is mostly represented by Ward 4, and Ward 4 has the fewest park acres of any Rapid City ward, at only 66 acres. Vicki Powers is the largest park in North Rapid. However, if you live south of the interstate, it's not very accessible if you don't have a car. The second largest park is the Knollwood Drainage Area, and we don't even always call it a park because it doesn't have the typical park amenities. There are 5 additional parks in North Rapid. As you can see, they're all smaller: Horace Mann, Thompson, College, Willow, and American Legion, which is only a little over a half acre. So in its current condition, Knollwood Drainage Area is an underutilized and under-resourced park. It is an off-leash dog area by ordinance, so people do run their dogs there. As I said before, it is a stormwater management area, and there is a path worn by pedestrians over time. You can see it in the north part of the image, in between the Knollwood Drive and Brentwoods Drive cul-de-sacs and Common Sense. And in its current condition, there is no playground, there are no sports courts or fields. I don't believe there are any benches, at least in the public portion of the park, and there is very inadequate lighting. So we would like to talk to you about why we think this project is important to the whole community and this neighborhood. We do believe it addresses at least 5 of the core values. The main 2 that it addresses are that this park would be an outstanding recreational and cultural opportunity for the city. It would give a new place for kids to go play, for adults to walk, to meet up with people in the neighborhood, and just have a fun thing to do close by that's free. It would also help create a more vibrant, livable neighborhood in the Knollwood area, again, because it offers recreational opportunities. It can increase health in those people that live right there. It helps expand the sidewalk network in that area. Hopefully people can go in between businesses and homes a little easier, as well as to other homes. And then we would be holding public input meetings if this funding were approved to make sure that we are doing right by that community as well. We want to make sure that we're putting in the features that that neighborhood wants to see. We do have a conceptual design, as I said, but we do want to make sure that that would actually address what people want up there. It is also in line with the 2008 CEPTED study that stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And that is that's a study area where you try to prevent crime through creating a safer environment. The study in 2008 was done by the police department, and I do want to reiterate that the police department is on board with this project. I have had talks with Tyler Reed, who is the liaison up at Knollwood, as well as Jamie Kirsch and now retired Lieutenant Eisenbron, and they all wanted to see this happen. We're hoping to make their burden a little lighter by making this a safer park. We can't solve the crime issues up there, but we humbly hope that we can help. As well, this is part of the future land use plan for the North Rapid neighborhood. It does emphasize that we should maintain and redevelop existing parks where there are established neighborhoods. And though this isn't our main goal, this is also a very visible park from the interstate. It does not look very good right now, and we have a lot of people and people who visit and residents who drive by on a daily basis, and we hope to form a better impression. So just a couple of notes on the improvements. There is a power line in the northeast part of the park that is dangerously within reach on the slope behind Common Sense. If someone jumped, you could easily touch that power line. So we would be negotiating with Black Hills Energy, hopefully, to see if we could bury that power line. That is also something that is listed in the comprehensive plan as a goal that we should aim towards. A note on the play equipment location that is shown in that design. That is shown on a parcel that is not owned by the city currently. It's owned by the landowner that has the Maplewood townhouses, I believe. But it is surrounded by city land, and we would talk to that landowner, see if they would possibly donate or lease that land, and if not, we would just relocate that play equipment somewhere else. And then just to talk about the path, that is kind of the main feature of this redevelopment. The amenities we would provide would be benches, trash receptacles, lighting, and potentially interpretive signs to talk about the function of the wetland, potential animal, plant species you might see there. And as a note, we would be looking for dark sky friendly fixtures in this area since it is surrounded by hotels and houses. Wouldn't want to create more light pollution. This is the opinion of probable cost. Our total ask is $1.264 million. This number can change, but this is what we're requesting at this time. And then next steps, if awarded, would go the same as any city project. We would go through the consultant selection process, make sure that whatever designer would be qualified and interested in this project. They would help us hold public input meetings, as I said. We would consult with our engineering division to make sure that stormwater management and utilities are considered and incorporated into this project, see if they have any updates that need to be done at the same time. There would be permits required from the city, state, and Army Corps of Engineers. And then again, like any city project, we would advertise and bid. We are hoping to construct in one phase so that we don't disturb the wetland more than necessary. And that would be, that would get us to the finish line of a new Knollwood Park. So, any questions?
Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Melissa. Great presentation. And timing is everything, and I don't think there could be a better time for a project in this area. And this sounds fantastic. Just a few questions, if I may. Very happy to hear that it's going to be dark sky friendly. We have a lot of people in our community who are interested in that and support that, and I'm very happy to hear that, so thank you for taking that into consideration. I love the term opinion of probable cost. How firm are those numbers? Are you comfortable with those numbers?
It was reviewed, revised, excuse me, in July. So right before we submitted this application. Of course, it's hard to know at this time with inflation how it is.
But you vetted the numbers pretty well, you think, and that's a good, okay, thank you.
Yep.
It's awfully close to the interstate.
Yep.
And will there be fencing or anything to prohibit, people from running up onto the interstate or people walking along the interstate coming down onto the park?
There is currently fencing there. I imagine it would stay or be replaced.
Okay.
Yep.
So the entire length of the park there would be protected?
To that north side, yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
The path, would it be at ground level, or would it be raised up? Because if there is water through there, then, you know, that wouldn't be usable.
Right, it would have to be ground level, actually, because of the stormwater area. We were looking at an asphalt path, but yeah.
Do we have any idea how often that area is flooded or filled with water that would prevent it from being used then in that park capacity?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Anyone have a feel for that? Any of the great minds in this room? So it's rare, and that was
Yes.
my thought too.
Yeah.
It's very rare that it would actually be underwater.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I think this is a fantastic idea, and the time couldn't be better. So thank you. I support this very much. Thank you, Mayor.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank the mayor for bringing this forward, Melissa, Jeff Bigler. I do think the timing is very good on this. I don't think it's perfect. I think it would have been better 10 years ago when this was first proposed. This is something that's been talked about for a long time. I think it's a great project for that area. Not only does it bring another park into North Rapid, which you're right, we don't have enough of them in North Rapid. And thank God for a couple of them that we've got, you know, over the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Vicky Powers has been wonderful. I think this will be great too. And I have to laugh because I'm around that area a lot, and everybody says this is a dog park. I don't think I've ever seen anybody with their dogs up there. But, you know, I've seen a lot of people up there, and also a lot of people that wander that area at nighttime, and I think the lighting component of this is going to be absolutely fantastic. I think the PD would support me on that. I think having a path through there is going to be great too. I mean, I think that playground equipment definitely will be used by the kids in the area. I think that it's just a good project for that area. I mean, very seldomly can you find something that fits this well into a drainage area and helps take care of a lot of existing problems that we're having there right now. So anyway, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. I'm a little partial. I've been wanting to see this for almost a decade, so I imagine, you know, I'm going to be trying to get this funded as hard as I can. So anyway, thank you very much.
G. Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to Melissa for the presentation. Thank you very much. And then I know some other Parks Department people are here as well, so I appreciate your participation in this conversation. Question I've got is that additional park creates a question for me is current staffing, or do we need additional staffing and the cost for the additional ongoing maintenance, repair, et cetera?
I would say we don't know the additional operations cost. We do very well with the staff we have, but of course we would always
always need more.
We would always appreciate more. But no, we're just planning to absorb that cost into our existing operation maintenance budget.
The water that does run off up there, have you got any features to improve the water quality as it runs off that area?
Well, the wetland functions that way. So
Agreed.
just natural.
And that's not going away?
Nope.
Thank you. I think that's a good idea. And then I believe this is a good project for improvement of the entire area, because this would kind of upgrade the whole area in my opinion on what happens up in that area. Something else, you were mentioning dark skies. Something else that just came up during the South Dakota Municipal League meeting is that we were introduced to a new lighting system. And I think it would fit in, and I'm not trying to make a sales pitch for anybody or anything because I know the process, the technology is changing quite a bit so that we can do the lighting for dark skies. And I was kind of impressed with what they were able to display. It was one of those items or artifacts that could not be displayed appropriately because of the size and where that was located at. But if that becomes an opportunity to take a look around for the other vendors that we have or vendors that are available to give us the opportunity for dark skies, and plus the way it was explained to me, and it needs to be verified because you got a sales pitch off of this, so the cost on the lighting seems to be minimal. So it seems like a good product, but again, I'm not the expert in lighting, and that's kind of falls onto you folks. And so if you get an opportunity to take a look at their lighting on that, I think that would be a great benefit to this area.
Yeah, we'll certainly consider that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I yield.
Bill Evans.
Thanks for the proposal, Melissa. I agree with John. These neighborhood parks are critical to the quality of life. There are ratings out there concerning urban parkland. I believe Minneapolis rates as #1, and if you've been there, you see why. And it mainly has to do with whether or not you can walk your child to a park from your house. And despite all of our great floodway, Rapid City does not even make the cut anywhere in that, top 400 or 500 places for parks. And it has to do with the livability and walking to your neighborhood park. So I think this is a great project. As you know, I've been following that intersection redevelopment up there for the last year and a half, fighting against too much concrete. I'm curious, I noticed on your drawing you've got the old highway and intersection there. Have you guys checked to see that? Because they're putting in that new fancy double cross thing like they have in Cheyenne, which takes up appreciably more space. And I'm wondering if that affects the distance from the freeway there and how that approaches that intersection, and if you guys have checked on that at all.
That is something we would have to address in the coming design. This was just the concept, and it was from a couple of years ago. So before that plan was released. I don't imagine it would change the plans, but of course we'll look at that.
Yeah, what we might want to do, and as you know, I'm opposed to filling everything with concrete and creating a weed patch and a hot spot, and maybe we can make a deal with the DOT. We'll save you the money on the concrete, and we'll agree to mow those if they're filled with lawn, but instead, you give us the money to plant trees in this park. Thank you.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nice job. Appreciate it. Very quick question. I know that this area, I believe, is a magnet for mosquitoes. And so is there any mosquito mitigation efforts as part of this project?
It's probably something we'd have to look at. We do some spraying, but mostly we've been doing briquettes to prevent the younger life stages from even starting. So yeah, it's probably something we'd have to look at, but we'd also have to follow regulations for being a wetland and all that.
Yeah, you still want it to be usable, obviously,
Right.
and so just something to keep in mind as we go through that. I know that you all do keep that in mind in our other parks, so I'm sure you will here as well. Thank you.
Okay, that wraps up the questions for this project. And now let's move on to the Star of the West Irrigation and Concrete Replacement Project.
Just the arrow. First off, I'd like to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to present a couple projects that were kind of dear to us. And I know we proposed a few other projects that didn't make the cut, but these were pretty worthy projects, I believe. Thank you to the Vision Committee, too, for the job you guys done on the other projects that were presented, too. First off, the Star of the West complex was built 30 years ago. I think Mr. Weifenbach kind of alluded to it from back then. It was to replace the fields that were down at Robbinsdale with the old landfill. Currently, we do have a lease with Rapid City Softball Association that leases that property. Also, the Midget Football League does do their football games out there and practices in the fall after the softball association's done. The lacrosse league too, we do have a lease with them on the old soccer fields that are just north of St. Patrick Street. So there's a few different entities that utilize this property. The softball association presently is housed out there. They run a season May through September, basically every night of the week. They do have an average of about 180 teams every year. That's men, women, and co-ed. They kind of go throughout the season. This last year, they did have 11 tournaments out there this year. Anywhere from 30 to 80 teams that participated in those tournaments on the weekends. There was the Native American World Series too. That was the second year of that tournament, and there were 75 teams that came in for that. Only 11 of those teams were from South Dakota, so it's bringing in a lot of people from outside the state. Also, the state tournaments for the men, women, co-ed, normal softball stuff. They were saying the men's tournament this year was the biggest in the state, so they're really bringing the people in. Also, as far as the tournaments go, the Rushmore Classic has been going on for about 25 years, and this year they had, I believe, 124 teams. They utilized this complex and the ASA softball fields too. Also, the one last one, the Special Olympics, softball and bocce. They have I believe they have a softball tournament in the summer, kind of a smaller one. Then they have a fall classic that has softball and bocce. And apparently, they had over 2,000 spectators at that, so they're really pouring in the people there too, so it's really important. I don't want to bury you in the weeds too much on irrigation design. I know it's not a real shiny project like a dome because most of the stuff's going to be buried in the ground. You won't be able to see it, but out there, normally an irrigation system will last anywhere from 20 to 25 years. This one's been in the ground for over 30. Currently, each field has its own controller that operates the field, the sprinklers on that field. Every one of those controllers is unusable, whether the wires get severed underground, whether there's a bad valve on the sprinkler head actually has a valve on it. So each of those sprinklers has a valve. Normally you have a main line with a valve that runs 4 or 5 sprinklers, but this is set up a little bit different. So what they have to do now, instead of running the controller, running each head, they have to go to the field. There's a gate valve that operates that whole field. So there's 8 different gate valves that will run each field, and they'll turn it on by hand. Very, very inefficient because nobody's going to go out there in the middle of the night and turn on that irrigation valve to water at night when you're supposed to. When they turn that gate valve on, there's 16 heads that are on each field, and they vary in their gallons per minute, but they average about 30 gallons per minute each head. So those 16 heads are flowing about 480 gallons a minute. That 6-inch main line that kind of goes up through there, that kind of bisects between those top 3 fields. On the design, it was recommended that 6-inch main line doesn't flow any more than 425 gallons a minute. So right there, you're pushing the limits of that 6-inch main line. I kind of just found out too, talking to the guys and how they do operate those systems. Sometimes they'll run 2 fields and possibly 3. So if it's on the other side of the complex, not as huge a deal. But when you do that, where that water tap is and the backflow preventer and everything, there's 900 gallons a minute. If you got 2 fields going, that's 900 gallons a minute coming out of that backflow preventer. And with that, the wear and tear on the pipes, we have leaks every year. The big one that happened this year was right outside that backflow preventer, and it cost us about $2,500 just in parts. And fortunate enough, we have a darn good park maintenance crew that can fix those kind of things, so it would have cost us a heck of a lot more than that. One other thing, kind of the maintenance-wise, since you can't operate individual heads and things on the field, when they're dragging those infields, they need to wet that dirt down too, so they'll either run the whole field and wet it down that way, or not wet it down and then dust out the the fans and everything when they're running the drag around that dirt. So it's really, they can't get along very well with that. This is kind of the southern part of the complex there. They have the 8 ball fields, and then they have, originally there was all soccer fields. Now the lacrosse fields obviously are to the south, and then there's just practice fields to the west. But those are main line with valves that are operational right now. We do have 2 controllers there that are hooked up to our central control irrigation system that currently do work. There's some communication issues out there, but at least that part of the system does work on our central control. With the design we're going to come up with too, hopefully we can find an extra water tap so we can, because right now the only source of water is right in front of right as you walk up the entrance to the field, there's a huge green box that has that giant backflow preventer in there. Hopefully we can get another, I think there's either a water line on St. Patrick Street, or I believe there's one that kind of bisects that lacrosse field too. So hopefully if we can't utilize that line, we'll hook the main line of the new softball system to the old main line of the lacrosse and the practice fields. As I said, the 2 controllers out there that do work are hooked up to our central control irrigation system. And if you don't know, Parks has a pretty huge central control irrigation system. We have over 70 controllers operating anything from Legion Park, which is half an acre, up to Canyon Lake Park, Memorial Park, which are 35 plus acres of just irrigated turf. With those 70 controllers, we do have 4 weather stations. There's a weather station at our shop on Canyon Lake Drive. There's one on top of this building. There's one out at the new soccer complex and one at the landfill. So this would give us an additional site for another weather station, which would incorporate other systems on it as well as this one that are in the area. By putting it on the central control, we can program everything in the overnight hours to minimize the evaporation and maximize the absorption of water instead of watering during the day when it's windy and hot and the sun's shining and it's evaporating like crazy. That little chart at the bottom, we initiated our central control system in 2013. That was the first year we had it operational. That chart there is very indicative of what this stuff can do, what that central control irrigation system does. In comparing Canyon Lake Park, Memorial Park, Sioux Park, they're about the same size as what the Star of the West irrigation system is currently. They're all, I did kind of a quick thing on Rapid Map, but they're all about 35 acres of just irrigated turf. Founders Park was kind of thrown in there because back then it was one of the initial ones we installed. So from 2012, when we didn't have the central control, to 2013, there was, you can see the huge savings. That highlighted number there is 19 million gallons of water we saved by hooking it up to central control. Probably can't blame it all on central control. There would, maybe 2012 was a dry year and 2013 was a wet year, but it is indicative because that, if it is a wet year, that's when the system will shut off those controllers and you won't be watering when it's raining. Moving on to the concrete replacement too, this is kind of a 2-part project with that irrigation system that needs to be updated, plus the concrete out there. And if you've been out there, it's kind of a menagerie of stuff that's happened out there. Just by initial measurements, we came up with about 12,000 square feet of concrete. You're going to say, why is it all broke up? Well, there's maintenance vehicles, there's been construction, just like the restroom project a couple years ago. This section here is indicative of mostly that project, but also other ones that, they have Coke and beer deliveries going up and down the sidewalks. There's one of those that is a really thick, probably 10-inch sidewalk, so it can handle it, but some of these other ones, they can't. environmental conditions to this. The whole complex there was all built up on fill, so some of that stuff might have been unstable over the last 30 years too. You know, with some of that broken concrete, you go into wanting to be compliant with the ADA stuff too. So I think that's especially important if we're hosting the Special Olympics events and having those people out there and just making sure everything's safe for everybody. Estimated cost of the project, I did require some services from one of the landscape architects in town that just got through designing and bidding out the big sports complex in Spearfish. Very comparable to the size of what we're talking about out here. He was thinking that's a little bit different there. There's soccer fields and softball. The main thing we're doing on this project would be in the softball area. They were thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of $850,000 plus the design and maybe a contingency too in case you had to do something a little different. The concrete part, we figured in at $15 to $20 a square foot, and that accounts for breaking out the old concrete and replacing it with new, and obviously putting some thicker reinforced concrete in the areas where there's vehicular traffic and where some of the bad areas are. There may be an additional concrete needed too to meet some ADA standards, depending on how the slopes are out there. We might have to put some landings in or maybe some alternate routes so the slope's not too severe. So in a nutshell, the irrigation replacement's about $1 million, concrete replacement about $250,000. So just to give you a little bit of comparison on how our department is funded and what we could accomplish, our current Parks and Rec CIP is about $1 million that we receive for all of our projects, all of our capital improvement projects. We couldn't even fund this project with our current CIP funding. We're kind of running into that now too with the Dinosaur Park project. We're having to shuffle some money around. Just threw the bottom one in for kind of the heck of it. Our repair budget, our water and sewer budget's about $70,000. Our guys are really good at keeping these systems running. We have, the 70 controllers on central control plus some that aren't. So there's, 80 to 100 systems that our parks people take care of, and they do a really good job of keeping these things going. Repair streets, curbs, and sidewalks, that's kind of our concrete money. We'll replace little things in-house that we can, is $25,000 right now. We did ask for a little more in our budget for next year, and I think that was approved, so we'll be a little better off next year to fix some of that stuff. Kind of wrapping it up, the community impact, you can't deny that the water usage out there is top priority right now. If you look at some of the stuff on the news, I know maybe some of you guys up there have been in contact or with all the building going on and how much water is going to be used here in the future, that we need to be smart about what we're doing. We can run the system in the overnight hours. We can shut the system off when it's raining with the central control stuff and have less irrigation breaks too, and relieve some of that cost too. Along with the concrete stuff, the ADA and safety, the no trip hazards, and have safe, accessible routes within that complex. I know it's not a shiny project, and you won't see a lot of it, but I think it's a very important project too. Open it up to questions if you got some.
Thanks, Scott. We'll go to Pat Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Scott and Mr. Biegler. Thank you very much for putting these things together tonight. I love the Star of the West. I've umpired hundreds of softball games out there over the years. The Rushmore Classic, the ASA tournament, just for one, brings in hundreds and hundreds of people to Rapid City, and it's great. And even though you say it's not a shiny project, when people leave here, they talk about our facilities, as we well know, so this is obviously a must-do. Just curious, is all the water that's used to water the fields out there potable water?
It is, yes.
And is there any way, are there any non-potable lines that run through there or anything so that water can be used instead of potable water?
Rapid Creek's really close, but as far as that goes, you're getting into pump stations, and with this amount of water, I think you'd have to maybe consider water rights off of Rapid Creek too. I'm not really familiar with how all that works, but It's a bigger ball of wax than what it is now.
Oh, sure. I just sense, we're going to be doing a new project and maybe putting in new things. That's, such an amazing amount of water, and water is so crucial. I just toss it out there that if it's something that can be done, we should consider it.
Yeah.
If not, I certainly get it too. But
Yeah.
I support this project 100%. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation, Scott. I hate to blindside our chief financial officer, but I need a little help on the understanding the 5-year plan if we're going to that direction. On the CIP part of this, and this is a little bit different from what the CIP Parks is, but if we're looking at 5 years, is there a possibility the CIP, as we know, the committee that we have for planning on that for the city, is it possible we could enter or get some assistance from the CIP since we're looking at into year 5 for this plan?
So the CIP plan is a 5-year plan, but if you remember, we have our policy where a certain percentage of it goes to Parks and Rec. And I want to say it's maybe 3%, 6%, which comes to about $1.1 million a year. So to get to where they need to be, it's going to take a little while to build that up for a 1-year allocation, not to mention all the other projects that they have in the pipeline or that are needing to be addressed as well. So while, yeah, theoretically they could use CIP funding for this over a couple years, that's probably not the best use of those funds because of all the other needs that are out there in the Parks and Rec Department.
Thank you, and I appreciate your candor and letting me catch you off guard on this here. So thank you, because I was totally unprepared for this as well. The water quality issue and the water usage, I'm very concerned about that. Mm-hmm. So if there's any way we can come up with ways to deal with or reduce the amount of water that has to go onto those grounds, I can support that. So, and if I remember right, a few years back, we were looking at pulling water out of Rapid Creek. And I believe you are correct about the water rights. Yeah. That is becoming an issue, and then also the ongoing maintenance and repair for the equipment that has to be utilized to draw water off of Rapid Creek. So I think it's more expensive to use that type of pumping system on that. The other part that I'm really concerned about is the current trip hazards on the concrete. Mm-hmm. Is this all of these projects looked at in 1 year, 2 years, phases? Help me out, Scott.
As far as what?
As doing the water first? I'm assuming that'll be first, right? And then the concrete will be later?
Yeah, it would make sense to do the irrigation first, just because you'd have to cross the sidewalks and you have to cross some of that stuff. But
time-wise?
As far as importance and safety, that if you could do the concrete first, would make sense. You'd maybe just have to either leave a section, well, not leave a section out, but either put sleeves in under the concrete, in preparation of your irrigation system maybe, or, bust some concrete out. You'd hate to bust stuff out, but it'd just be for the trench.
And then replace it again. So, but I really appreciate the concern for the trip hazards on the broken concrete. And then I think that's all I've got at this point, Scott. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Sure.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Scott and Jeff, for bringing this forward. I think this is a great project, too. And I've been saying for many years that staff needs to bring forward more projects like this to keep some of these things out of our CIP or to kind of help get some of these projects done. One of the problems that we've had that I've seen with the Vision Fund over the years is we build all these absolutely wonderful projects, but then we don't realize what we're going to do to maintain them over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And I've made recommendations over the years on some things that we could do that would help that, just some changes in the ordinance, and maybe we should look at that again here in the near future. I do want to go back to the watering, and I want you to thank you for bringing up how much water we've saved with that central controller. So in 2011, one of the first committees I ever chaired was a committee for water conservation. And those controllers came out of the recommendations of that committee. And also on that committee, we had looked at using water out of Rapid Creek and some of the parks in Rapid. And we actually had put together a budget on what it would cost to do all of Memorial Park at that time. And I had asked the previous Park and Rec director, you weren't there yet, were you, Jeff? No, I don't think so. I've been here longer than you. That's amazing. I asked the previous Park and Rec director to bring this up in a vision fund, you know, because if you look at the 20 million gallons we've saved so far, and you look at the 1.9 million we could have invested back then, you know, almost 11 years ago, and we had a projected payout of that at that time of 3.5 years. We just couldn't push it through and get it on the vision fund or get it funded at that time. So you look at some of these, and I appreciate Richie bringing up, Pat bringing it up, you know, that there's other options. And I don't think that there's as much of an issue with water rights as you think there are. I mean, we right now we do some of our irrigating for the golf course out of Rapid Creek. So, you know, I think these are things that we could get across. I know when we looked at it originally in the committee, one of the things that we were looking at is the cost to treat the water, because most people don't realize all this water that's going into the irrigation in our parks and our homes is treated water. So, you know, that's what we were looking at back then. Cost savings, it's not really, you know, the controllers are saving a lot of water use because, again, you're not watering during the rain. Like, you know, if you have somebody that goes out and turns it on manually and they go wherever for an hour or they, you know, do whatever and it starts raining, if it's pouring rain, they're not coming back to turn them off. So, you know, and that used to be one of my pet peeves was you would see it pouring rain and the city's out there watering. Well, without those controllers, there's not much that we can do or you can do to control that. So I'm extremely excited to see those numbers. That's the first time I've seen those numbers. And saving 20 million gallons in the last 10 years, that's pretty impressive. So anyway, thank you very much.
Bill Evans.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Roberts that the ongoing funding is a problem. Perhaps we need to revisit that 0.8 of a dollar that was taken and transferred to CIP, and we put it back specifically into a maintenance fund. So all of these things we do build have money specifically dedicated toward maintaining them into the future. I don't know what the discussion was at the time, but it seemed to me that would be a logical thing to do. And incidentally, I think the name Star of the West is fantastic, and it's also used by media and television stations and other things. And I think we should actually officially adopt that as Rapid City's nickname. I've checked. It's not copyrighted. The closest thing you have to it online is Watertown's Rising Star of the West. Well, I think it's great, and I think when it used to be on the water tower up there on Rushmore Road, it was a spectacular thing to see, and I think we should make it official, and then we can go back to wearing Mr. Weifenbach's logo on our lapels because it's cool and it's stylish and it has impact. All right.
Ron Weifenbach.
Appreciate that, and I agree that the lapel pin, and if anybody wants to buy one, I'm just kidding. But I was on that founding committee that brought that softball complex to Rapid City when it was just an imagination of a few people, and Star of the West was a great name. I'll agree with that. I just didn't want anybody to leave tonight thinking that Rapid City has any problem with water. I can tell you, and I just had a conversation with the mayor the other day, and we were talking about the infinite wisdom, which sometimes we don't give credit to previous administrations and previous council people, that we have secured water rights for our community for a long time. We have a lot of water rights in Rapid City, out of Rapid Creek. We have water rights out of the Missouri River, and we have water rights out of Pactola. So Rapid City is not short on water rights. I don't want anybody to leave here with that thought process, but it's always a good practice to save, you know, those types of disposables, the water, whatever we're looking at into the future. If we got an opportunity to do that, then we need to look at that. But so, I mean, just want to let everybody know that the councils ahead of us had spent a lot of time collecting water rights in our community throughout the city, so throughout Rapid Creek, and purchased from the Fed water rights out of Pactola. At the time, it was a big deal, and today it's an even bigger deal. And so 20 or 30 years from now, it'll even be a bigger deal. So I didn't want anybody to leave tonight thinking that we have any water issues with water rights. So thank you.
Okay, that seems to be all the questions for Scott on the Star of the West project. Thank you, Scott. And
Thank you, guys.
Now we're going to go to Pauline Sumption, Finance Director on the Opportunity Capture Fund.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving the staff the opportunity to bring forward projects that we think are good projects for vision funding. My request is for the Opportunity Capture Fund funding of $1.5 million. This is not something new to you. You've heard me requesting funding for this a couple of times already this year. That one's not working. So a little bit about the program history. It was actually created in 2006 under Mayor Jim Shaw. At the time, it was a partnership between the city and Rapid City Economic Development Partnership, which is now Elevate Rapid City. I say it's a partnership because it's a program that's funded by the city. Elevate brings forward projects to the committee that is approved by the council, and then they bring forward recommendations for funding out of this project. The funding source has always been the Vision Fund. It started with the Vision 2012 Fund. It actually used to have a really long name. It's now the Vision Fund, but that has always been the funding source for this program. Initially, there was $1 million of seed money that was put into the program in 2006, and then for 3 years, there was $500,000 each year, and then $1.2 million in 2010. The second round of funding was under Mayor Alan Hanks during the 2011 and 2015 vision cycle. During this cycle, the original allocation was for $1.5 million over the course of the 5 years. At the same time, the Vision Committee recommended $1 million for the IDPF program, which stands for the Infrastructure Development Partnership Fund. And that there were too many strings attached to those dollars, and nobody really wanted to take a loan from us in that regards. And so it was requested at that time to reallocate that funding to the Opportunity Capture Fund, which the council agreed to. So over the course of 16 years, we have granted nearly $7.4 million in funding for over 40 different organizations. I say 16 years, but in 2020, we did not allocate any of the grants because of the ever-loving COVID that we finally have at least been able to meet and to do some more recruiting of businesses. Just a few of the examples. The very first allocation was to the business incubator for $350,000. This is the one that is on site at the School of Mines that started the whole program with entrepreneurship and trying to get the small businesses in, get them large enough so that they can go out on their own. We also gave Cabela's $2 million as part of a package to bring them to Rapid City. Part of that has been repaid to this Opportunity Capture Fund in the amount of $1.5 million through a tax increment district that was also part of the package when we were working to bring Cabela's here. We gave South Dakota Mines through the partnership, $497,000 to do an additional incubator build-out. Then we went and recruited WL Plastics to come to Rapid City. That was a joint effort between elected officials and Economic Development Foundation and partnership. They are still here, and I hear advertisement for them all the time on the radio looking for employees. Property Meld, we granted them $55,000. They are actually one of them that started in the incubator, and they expanded to a standalone facility. And if you recall, they are also expanding yet again to a larger facility, building their own building on St. Joe. Caterpillar Global also got about $300,000. They also started in the incubator, and they are now out with West River Electric. $500,000 for Black Hills Corp. Some think this was unnecessary, but it was part of a package to entice them to move their corporate headquarters to Rapid City. They are a very good community partner. Just this weekend I saw between their employees and them, they're giving over $300,000 to United Way, which then comes back to our community. So their dollars are also being spread throughout the Rapid City community. Jobs created in the 40-plus grants that we've given is nearly 2,000 positions, 2,000 jobs. One of the goals of the committee is to find the higher paying jobs and give incentives for that creation. So as part of this, I'm going to jump to the third bullet. There's a conservative average from Elevate of 10 times the return on investment of our grants through our local, state, federal taxes plus payroll. And so that means over $73 million has been added to our community spend, which equates to about $1,460,000 in just city sales tax over that time period. In addition, there's an estimated average of 100 times return on capital investment. So more than $700 million of capital investment has been put into our community because of these companies that we have believed in and given them grants. Whoops, I went a little too far. So again, in conclusion, I'm requesting $1.5 million to be spread over the life of the plan, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, just to get some more funding. This program actually is a pipeline, or the fuel to the pipeline to bring more tax dollars to Rapid City. As you can see from the previous slide, if we put $70 million into our economy, that comes back to us also in sales tax. Outside of the tax increment districts, this is one of the only economic development tools that the city has, and it is the city's tool. Just because Elevate brings forward a proposal from an organization doesn't mean that the committee is going to recommend paying it. In fact, I think there's been a few that we've said no to. There's also been some that have come forward that the committee has liked and have actually given more grant dollars than what was recommended by Elevate or the previous organization. The fund promotes relocating companies to Rapid City or expanding the businesses we already have. We like to invest in those that are successful in Rapid City. One of those that we've done that for is Strider Bike. They were looking to expand to the adult size bikes in the Strider component, and they received a grant from us that helped them get that kick started. No pun intended. Like I previously said, these funds drive additional sales tax dollars to a Rapid City, allowing programs like the Vision Fund to be successful. It also puts money into the general fund and to the CIP fund. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have, or if you need additional information.
Okay, Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. For Director Sumption, first of all, thank you for all you do, and I appreciate you letting me catch you off guard a couple of times. It's amazing that you're able to come up with the answers just almost like off the top of your head. So I'm astonished at the recall that you have. Could you share with us a little bit? You mentioned committees several times, but If I understand it correctly, the quality of the members that are on the committee are a little bit more above average. Am I saying that correctly? That these are very outstanding people that you've got on the committee.
True. We have very good business people from the community that have provided input. I will say that from the elected officials, the mayor, the council president, and the economic development liaison, they're also on the committee. The council appoints 2 people from the business community, and Elevate gives 1 designee. So we have Dick Johnson, Pete Kappa, and Bob Demersman. Bob Demersman used to run economic development, and Pete Kappa used to be a banker, and Dick Johnson's with West River Electric. So, and he's on the board for Elevate. So they're all very good, knowledgeable people looking at what's best for Rapid City.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it because it's a blue ribbon group for me, and it isn't solely your decision that's coming up with these answers. So I'm glad you shared that information about the committee. Are all of these funds by grants, or is there loans or anything like that nature?
So they start off as grants, and then Elevate has a MOU with them, and they have to hit their milestones. So if they come in with a proposal that they're going to bring in 100 jobs, they have to meet that 100 jobs for it to maintain the grant within a 3 to 5 year time period. That's how it's been in the past, where they get the grants up front, then they have to perform, and if they don't perform, it reverts to a loan. What's changed now is that with Elevate helping to administer this, they now are looking at, you create the jobs first, and then we'll give you the grant for those jobs that you created. So we know that they're at least creating the jobs that are getting money for the jobs that they said that they would create.
Very good. Excellent recall. Thank you, Pauline. I appreciate you. I yield here.
Jason Solomon.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Hey, Pauline, great job, nice presentation. There's no doubt about it. Opportunity Capture Fund has been a positive for Rapid City. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree.
I think whenever we can invest in something that actually brings more money back than what we invested in, that's good business, and it's really good. Can you give us an idea of where this fund stands right now?
Yes. There is currently undesignated, unallocated of $328,137.
Okay. And any of those, do we have any outstanding loans that are yet to be paid back, or that all just in the grant process?
They are all in grant status right now.
Everything's spoken for.
Yes, we are following a few of them a little closer because of the economy. They've had taken some hits, but we're still following them and having conversations with them, and the committee's reviewing those on a regular basis.
Okay. Well, I think we rarely get an opportunity that we invest in. This is what I would consider an investment that returns. Sometimes we invest in something that might return in quality of life, or it's nice to have. Some of these projects that we have, though, like this, is actually something that helps pay back so that we can continue to fund these things. And I think that's the intriguing part about the Opportunity Capture Fund. Appreciate those who laid it down a long time ago. Thanks for your presentation.
Thanks.
Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. This might seem, I don't know. It makes me nervous that we would put money into something like this to create more jobs and to bring in businesses at a time when finding the qualified people is kind of difficult. Tell me how that is not going to affect these types of companies that we're going to attract.
Well, I will tell you that Elevate is also working on those efforts to bring in quality employees. Some of these companies, if they relocate, they bring employees with them, and so that adds to our economy as well. And I know that some of these businesses have talked with Western Dakota Tech to do training for what they need for those roles. So there's opportunity there to get those employees as well.
those words really help me, because I like to hear Western Dakota Tech brought into this conversation, because we do need people in those fields, and we do need jobs for them when they decide to live somewhere. This should be where they want to be. Of course, this all brings back to me one thing: housing, jobs, and people. We don't have enough people to fill the jobs, and then we don't have enough houses to take care of the people. So it seems kind of like I don't know, a second circle of hell in some way that we just can't seem to get around. But I have confidence that you could come up with a way to get us around this. It just makes me nervous, Pauline, that we aren't going to be able to complete that loop and get them homes and keep them here. And we're moving as fast as we can. And I want to see, I'd like to see this continue. I've watched it go in and out. It's had its ups and downs, this particular program and economic development. And I think we're kind of at a sweet spot right now, but it also gives me pause.
If I might, I do know that some companies actually buy corporate housing to alleviate some of that stress on their employees, where they don't have to find some place to live right away.
Okay.
And that way they can stay temporarily in the corporate housing until they can find something suitable for them.
I love hearing that answer too, so thank you for your time.
Okay, that looks like all the questions we have for that presentation. Thank you, Pauline.
You bet. Thank you guys for your consideration.
Now we'll move on to item 3, discussion and action from the City Council with Lance Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to start by making a motion to move this discussion and these items to a special working session in January.
Okay, first of all, we had a second on the motion, but Pat Jones wants to talk about the date, so.
So if I could maybe amend the motion to have it be...
Absolutely.
What?
You can amend the motion.
Oh, okay.
Which date works, and then we can...
I didn't know what was said, I'm sorry. To Monday, January 10th at 5:30.
I'll second the amended motion.
Okay, we have a substitute motion and a second on that to have a working session on Monday, January 10th at 5:30 p.m. Okay, Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would hope that my colleagues would spend some time gathering the information they want, reaching out to the organizations they want, or have interest in getting more information from, so we can make it productive, so we're not sitting there spinning our wheels on January 10th. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to move to January 10th. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we have a motion to adjourn by Lance Lehman, second by John Roberts. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned, everyone. Again, thank you all for attending tonight.